Okay. Ready to go? Hi, good evening. Okay, so today ushers in Chodesh Elul, and everyone knows that Elul is all about tshuva, right? But I want to understand what Elul is about as opposed to the Aseres Yemei Tshuva. There are like 10 days that are called Aseres Yemei Tshuva per se, which is actually very well sourced and spoken about openly in the Gemara. Dirshu Hashem b'imotzei lo asar yamim sheben Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Aseres Yemei Tshuva is, Talmudic. It seems that Elul is more midrashic. It's got to be something different because it should be 40 days of tshuva, because 30 of Elul and the 10 of. But obviously, there's got to be a difference that we're going to try to understand. But one thing that clearly links Elul with Yom Kippur is, it's the 40 days that Moshe Rabbeinu went up to get the second luchos. The first luchos broke on Shivasar B'Tammuz because they did the Chet HaEgel. And on Rosh Chodesh Elul is when Moshe Rabbeinu was invited back up to Shamayim to get the second luchos, and he came down on Yom Kippur, and that's how Yom Kippur got instituted forever after to be a day of forgiveness, because we reconciled with God, we got the second luchos on that day. So in that way, Elul is connected to the Aseres Yemei Tshuva and that whole process. It makes up the entirety of the 40 days, so it's a little bit different, which we have to understand how, but it's also connected. And the way that's connected has to do with the idea of getting the second luchos. So let's talk about the second luchos. It should have been a one-day trip. Like he had already learned the Torah, 40 days and 40 nights the first time. The day after Shavuos, he went up for 40 days and 40 nights, learned, the entire Torah Shebechtav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's how the Medrash says he knew. How do you know he was up there for 40 days and 40 nights? Sun don't shine up there. So the Medrash says that he counted how many times HaKadosh Baruch Hu alternated teaching him Torah Shebechsav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. So he counted that 40 times, Torah Shebechsav, Torah Sheba'al Peh, and that's how he knew it was day, Torah Shebechsav, nighttime is when he learned Torah Sheba'al Peh, and that's how he knew to tell that it was 40 days and 40 nights. And that's one of the sources, that Medrash is one of the sources of what the Mekubalim say, that one should not learn Torah Shebechtav at night. Night is the time of Torah Sheba'al Peh. There's it's Al Pi Kabbalah. Interestingly enough, when you move into a new house, you should do a Chanukah Sabayis. And so the Chidah wrote a whole pamphlet. A person should say by his Chanukah Sabayis party. With the food, it goes easier. You can munch, as you say, and it's a lot. But interestingly enough, he writes in the Hakdama, you'll see that he collated anything that talks about bias from Mishnayos, from Gemara, from Zohar, and made a whole thing, all different. Have to do with bias. You'll notice I did not bring anything from Torah Shebechsav, because most people do these parties at nighttime after they get home from work. Your Chanukah Sabayis party, and I want to be very nizar in the Azhara of the Ari, not to learn Torah Shebechsav at night, and therefore all my material on Chanukah Sabayis is all from the Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's what he writes over there. All right, so
after Chatzos, it's okay.
What? Yeah, presumably. Yeah. Now I know it's one of the reasons. I mean, there's other reasons also. We don't. We try to not say Tehillim at night, but that after Chatzos we do say Tehillim. So it's because it's already moving towards morning. Yeah, correct. So the. Anyway, so it's the first time I understand he had to learn the whole Torah. He hadn't been taught it before. He went up to Shamayim, learned the whole Torah, 40 days, 40 nights. That's how he knew it was the 40th verse, Torah Shebechsav, Torah Sheba'al Peh. Now he learned it already, right? So now he's coming to get the second luchos. Why does he have to be up there for 40 days again? It should have been a one-day trip. Psolacha, carve out the luchos, go up there, I'll put the writing on, come back down. Why, there might be many reasons for this, but maybe one reason of why it had to take 40 days and 40 nights a second time. Now, there's another question to ask over here, and that is, this whole luchos thing to begin with. What do you do with luchos? What function do they serve? It's not you can't lane from the luchas. They only have the aser sadibris. It's not a kosher sefer Torah. It's what are luchos? What do they do? What is their function? Right? So now and we know, and we have to go deeper in this because it's probably the key to the whole issue. Is that to understand the obvious difference between the first luchos and the second luchos. They were similar in the fact that they had to go up there for 40 days and 40 nights. So what is the difference between them? Right? That the first luchos, it says, V'luchos ma'aseh Elokim hema, v'michtav Elokim chos luchos. The tablets and the writing tablets were all divine. The stone, right, the luchos, was ma'aseh Elokim, it's an act of God. Right? God created the stones of the first luchos. The second luchos is psolacha shnei luchos avonim karishonim. Moshe Rabbeinu, you sculpt two luchos just like the first ones. The second luchos came from earth, and that psolacha was on Rosh Chodesh Elul that Moshe Rabbeinu carved those luchos, and then today when he went up. And by the way, that is one of the stated reasons. Brought down in the tour as to why we blow shofar. Starting today, starting from Rosh Chodesh, because what happened the first time around by the first luchos? Why did the people make the egel? Because they miscalculated. V'aram ki boshesh Moshe res minahar. They thought that 40 days was up. That's why they got confused, and one thing led to another. They started panicking that maybe he died up there. And that's why they made the egel as another way of moving forward. That's what they thought. So as we shouldn't get mixed up, right, and keep track, so we blow the shofar a day, and so the blowing of the shofar reminds you, okay, we blew the shofar yesterday, so today's day too, right, and that's the way it helps us, That's one of the reasons brought down in where the minhag came from. As to why we blow shofar. We shouldn't make the same mistake we made by the first luchos where we lost count of the days. Okay, okay. So before we get back to all of this, there's something very interesting to look into. We've had this order of laning now for hundreds of years, the way we lane, on the annual cycle. The Rambam already brings in Hilchos Tefillah. Once upon a time, to finish the Torah once every 3 years. But it's already for hundreds of years. It was already ancient by the time of the Rambam, that we're on this annual cycle, that we finish it every year on Simchas Torah. So if we've been doing this for a few hundred years, there's can't be a coincidence how things work out, that the first Shabbos in Elul is always Parshas Shoftim, like clockwork. Always. First Parsha we're going to read in the month of Elul. Right, Re'eh almost always is Shabbos Mevorchim, Elul, with the exception on when it comes out on Rosh Chodesh Elul. First Parsha in Elul, always Shoftim. And that's something very interesting to look into. Right, Shoftim is a sister Parsha and has a lot of overlap with issues with a Parsha that almost sounds the same, Mishpatim, right? The opening of Parshat Mishpatim is the mitzvah you have to go in front of Bezdin, Tasim Lifneim, but not Lifnei Goyim, God forbid, not go to secular court. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And we have a lot of some of the halachas like Achrei Rabbah, some of our judiciary laws and the monetary laws that the Bezdin passes by are all Parshas Mishpatim. Right, so the second half of those sugyas are in this week's parsha. Shoftim Mishpatim Tenelcha is again opens up with the mitzvah of setting up our judicial system. Right, but of course it completes the topic by also talking about all our other forms of government. The halachas of a melech are in this week's parsha, and also the authorities of the Navi. Right, the mitzvahs I say of Elav Tishbon, the authorities of the Navi, what he can tell you to do, what he can't tell you to do, also in this week's parsha. As I said, all our system of government, and of course, once you're talking about government, one of the things the government does, external affairs, is go to war. The laws of engagement in war is also in this week's parsha, which this crosses over because it's within the authority of the king and the Sanhedrin, to take us out to war. As you know, there's how. how this goes. When David Melech wanted to go to war, he immediately asked the Sanhedrin, and they asked Urim V'Tumim, etc., etc. So Urim V'Tumim is like Nevuah. One of the authorities of these governmental bodies is the authority to demand that, take us out to war. Otherwise, it gives you authority to put your life on the line. They have the authority to tell you there's a Milchama, Din Milchama, and you have to put your life on the line. So all the laws of government, are in this week's parasha, including the authority of the Sanhedrin. Right? So now something very interesting to note. Right after Ma'amad Har Sinai, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "Atem risem ki min hashamayim dibarti aleichem." I spoke to you from heaven. So, right, when you build a mizbeach, it's got to be mizbach avonim, right, out of stone. Right? And then, you figure that the Torah would continue to talk about now the laws of the Mishkan, because now the Torah came to earth, the divine presence, should rest on earth. Right? But it's not what happens. It starts talking about the Mizbeach, and then there's a break. Eila mishpatim shetasim v'neim, breaks with Parshas Mishpatim, with, judiciary, all the monetary law. Then there's another account of Matan Torah, it's, a different version of the event, where over there, V'echsu Esokim, V'ochlu V'yishtu, and then it goes back to, finally gets to the laws of the construct of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. Why did the Torah go into, immediately after Matan Torah, go into the Dinei Mominus, go into monetary law and the issues of the judiciary? You think that's like such a... so mundane, compared to the grand spiritual experience that there was, with Ma'amad Har Sinai. Now, going into the Mishkan makes sense, because that's the closest thing we have. And that the Ramban says that if you take a look, there's parallels between the Gilui Shechina that there was in the Mishkan and the laws that not anyone could approach the Mishkan. Kohanim could go further than the Yisraelim, and only the Kohen Gadol, that they parallel the laws of the Hagbolah, right? That were put around Har Sinai. Like the closest thing to Ma'amad Har Sinai is the Mishkan, right? But the Torah didn't go directly into B'niyas HaMishkan. It took a break with monetary law. We have to understand that, right? And over here, you can't help but note the parallel. Right, that when Moshe Rabbeinu is going up now to get a second manifestation of the Torah, it's the same Torah, but it's going to come down in the form of Luchas Shniyos. So that also opens up with the Parsha of Shoftim, which is the twin Parsha of Parshas Mishpatim. Right? So to understand a little bit of this, we'll just throw out some Ma'amorei Chazal about Dayanim and about Dayanos and about our judiciary system. One is from this week's Parsha. Tzedek tzedek tirdof leman techev v'yorashta sa'oretz. So Rashi brings the Chazal in the schus of Dayanim, that you're Mamid Dayanim, you're going to be Yorish Eretz Yisrael, right? Setting up, our judiciary system, right? That is going to be a schus for which we're going to inherit and be able to live and be secure in the land of Israel. What is the connection? There's a Gemara, right? Kol Dayan Shedan din emes la'amito nasa shutaf la'Kadosh Baruch Hu b'maaseh bereishis. Any dayan that meets out a true judgment, emes la'amito, the Gaon explains, is not just it's academically true, right? But also it fits the facts. Like they got the facts straight. Like they research the witnesses. So the facts on the ground are true and the academia is true. That's emes la'amito. So you're a partner of God in creation. So you and the dayan that did this is a partner with God in creation. And then another Ma'amar of Chazal called Daderes Amito, Mashre Shechina B'Yisrael. He causes the divine presence to rest in Klal Yisrael. And with this, we're sort of getting a little bit to the interesting halacha that's alluded to in this week's Parsha, stated almost explicitly at the beginning of Parshas Mishpatim, Shetasim Sanhedrin Etzel Mizbeach, that where the Grand Rabbinical Court, the highest court, our Supreme Court, had to sit in Lishkas Hagazis on the Temple Mount. Right? That there's, just like the Dayan, in a merit of his meting out true judgment, causes the divine presence to rest in Am Yisrael. So you understand, it makes sense that the highest court had to sit on the Temple Mount, and this is, by the way, the special authorities. They're spoken about in this week's parasha. The special authorities of the Beis Din HaGadol, that the Torah gave them honor, that no one's allowed to argue with them. Once they voted on something and something got ratified. So that's the din of Zakein Mamre that we have in this week's parsha. One guy, big Talmud Chacham, and he thinks they're wrong. And he sticks to his guns and he's not backing down even after they heard him out and they still voted him down. He gets executed, right? After they heard what you had to say and they still voted you down, you got to give in. So now it's interesting. They only have that authority that carries the death penalty to argue on them if they're sitting in Har HaBayis. If the Zakin Mamre argues on them when they're not sitting on the Temple Mount, right, he walks. It's called that he's wrong, but he doesn't get the death penalty. Right? Similarly, when the Sanhedrin went into exile 40 years prior to the destruction of the Second Temple, they uprooted and they went and they sat in a storefront, outside of the Temple Mount. At that time, so besides the fact that anyone who would argue on them would not be put to death, but not sitting in their place, they lost the authority, for all the courts in the land to, mete out capital punishment. So it's very easy that the court is only at its full authority, right, and it affects the whole judicial system when they sit on the Temple Mount together where the Shekhinah is. And that's very interesting. That Dayanis goes together with Hashras Hashchina, with having the divine presence rest in Am Yisrael. So now to understand all this, and we'll start going full circle. What? Excuse me?
God is in people.
God is, it's where the Shekhinah is revealed. God is everywhere, but you don't see Him everywhere. So you have to see the Bezdin where you see the Shekhinah, right? They go together. So you understand, that halacha of Tasin Sanhedrin Etzel Mizbeach, right? It reflects that mamra of Chazal called Dain Shidan Dir Sato Mashre Shechina B'Yisrael. Right?
Did they rule 40 years before?
No, because there were so many gang wars, right? And murder was rampant. So they said, listen, we don't want to be a killer machine. They just left. They voluntarily exiled themselves, to a storefront. This was 40 years before the destruction of the temple. It was, call it what you want. They just couldn't keep control of the situation, so one way to do it is to divest yourself of the authority, to be responsible. So that's why it's 40 years before they put themselves in a storefront in Yerushalayim off the Temple Mount. Okay, there's, understanding the human condition. The human condition, is something that... animals have it much better than we do. Let's face it. Really, right? They don't got to go to work. There's a famous medrash that laments that me'olam we never saw a tzvi, we never saw a deer that's a mail courier, and we never saw an ari saba, we never saw a lion that's a porter, that's in the moving business, and we never saw a fox that's a storekeeper, right? That's meaning to show that the lion is the strongest and he's not in the moving business, right? And the tzvi, the deer, is the fastest and he's not a mail courier. And the fox is the slyest and he's not a shopkeeper, he's not a businessman. Showing you that being smart, right, and being being smart, being strong, being swift. It's not for the purpose of making money, because these animals have these particular traits even better than we do, and they don't do it for profit, right? They don't do it for commercial gain, right? So lamenting that obviously it's, because of our sins that we have to go to work, right? Which is true, everyone knows, because of the sin of Adam, right? But there's still something to think about, right? That, we're going to get back to about the fact that we got to go to work because of sin. We're going to talk about that in just a second, that still there's a difference between us and the animals, right? But even prior to that, right, even if not for, let's say, right, Parnasa wouldn't be a problem. Let's just say, right, you still can't live like an animal. You won't survive. Man needs clothes. Man can't eat from the ground directly. He can't. Right? He needs clothes. He can't survive out in the open. He needs shelter. The human condition is as such. Man is not a creature of nature that could live in the great outdoors. He can't. It's an amazing thing. Right? Man can only survive with the use of technology. Right? Technology, I mean, including farming, cooking, clothes making. See, if you wouldn't have to go and make money, right? Let's say, still, man can't survive in the great outdoors. It's something which you have to think about. It's a very unfortunate situation, right? All the other animals, their survival is pretty much, it's natural for them. It's their second nature, and the human beings can't survive that way, right? They're forced to use their minds to survive. See, and that the needs became exponentially more that we're forced to use our minds to make money also. Right? But even so, the human condition is as such that, we have to use our minds. So it's a very interesting medrash that when Adam Arishan, after he sins, so God's reading him the riot act, you're telling his penalty. You're going to grow thorns, and you're going to eat Asav, you're going to eat whatever grows off the ground. So it says that Adam Arishan broke out into a sweat and said, Shema ani v'chamori niksharim le'evus achas. Maybe me and my donkey are going to eat out of the same feed bag. So it's going to. When he heard bezeh asapecha tochal lechem niskara daito, when he heard bezeh asapecha tochal lechem, by swear your brother eat bread, he actually calmed down, and that he was relieved. He was relieved to hear that. Right? Bezeh asapecha tochal lechem actually is something which was consoling man. Right? So the Maharal explains in the Nesiv Avoda that Adam thought that it went down to the level of an animal. And that's what I mean. Shema ani v'chamori, niksharim le'evus achas, me and my donkey will eat out of the same feed bag, because you are what you eat. So if I'm eating, like an animal, maybe I'm on the same level as an animal. When he heard, bezeh asapecha tochal lechem, because bread doesn't grow. Bread doesn't grow. Bread is a invention of human technology, human ingenuity. All right, because even if the wheat will grow wild, as you think of grinding it, kneading it, baking it, there's chachma, right? There's wisdom in bread. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Adam, you're going to eat bread, is that even the food that you're going to eat, for survival, it's going to have intellect in it, and that's the way it is. We can't eat, unprepared food. We can't. The food that we eat, it needs to be prepared, whether it's cleaned, peeled, right, cooked, right, all product of intelligence, and that was what consoled Adam. I'm not an animal. I'm not an animal because there's chachma even in, my day-to-day affairs. Because man's role is different than the role of the animals, if we are truly to be, better and more than the animals. Well, part of what man's being B'Tselem Elokim is, God is the creator, and he set up the laws of nature. Animals just ride that wave of the laws of nature. Right? Of course, created, set these laws and forces in motion. And because of these laws, there's the weather, and then there's agriculture, and all the other laws that, the animals, they just ride that wave. They know how to negotiate and how to, roll with the punches, call it. Right? Man is not supposed to roll with the punches. Now that we can't. You want to live that way, we'll die. Right? We have to be creators, like God is a creator. Right? But there's something deep in that our need to be creators, like He is a creator, is for the purpose of having a relationship with Him. Right? That how do we create? How do we create? Where do we get technology from? Where do we get technology from? Something amazing to think about. Where does technology come from? We observe the laws of nature, right? We figure them out, and we figure out how to use them. That means that the laws of nature, get this, the laws of nature are not around us. The laws of nature are in us. Meaning, in what way are they in us? They're in our heads, right? Our mind absorbs,
It's a constant.
What?
It's a constant.
What do you mean constant?
It's in there.
we are internalizing the laws of nature, which are God's laws. He lets them. We are internalizing them. They're not just around us and we negotiate with them and we juggle and we roll with the punches that they throw us. The laws of nature are in our head. Right? We study them, we mentally absorb them, and therefore we're not just being pushed around by them, we're using them. Right? And it's called that God's handiwork is in us. It's in us, it's in us through being in our minds. Right? And that way we also produce because we have absorbed the divine intelligence that is the laws of nature. It's not just around us that we have to contend with it. Animals are better contenders than we are. We're not contending. We absorb and we use. And that means we have God's mind inside of our mind. Right? Now the original goal was it should all be for the Torah. All for the Torah. Right? We shouldn't have to be distracted, of learning the outer layer of it for the purpose of survival. We know istako ba'oraisa ubara alma. God looked at the world, right, and looked at the Torah rather, and from that he made the whole world. Torah is really the original cosmic code of which the laws of nature actually trickle down from it. The original concepts and the original ideas, the primordial concepts that the concepts that are the laws of nature are based on really started from the Torah. Now, in Eden, right, when man didn't have to work for a living, right, the la'avdo l'shamra, to work the gargan, so Chazal say were mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs lo aseh, because survival wasn't the issue. The issue was purely to absorb, with the mind, the greatness of the Creator. Right? But then because we sinned, we fell from that, right? And the Torah was barred from Adam Rishon, was barred from mankind for another 26 generations. And during Adam thought, now I'm like an animal. No difference between me and them. No, there still is a difference, right? Bezeh sapecha tochal lechem. You live with intelligence, and it's the Ramchal writes in the Mesilas Yesharim, right? It's for the, he writes this in Derech Hashem also. It's the glory of man that sets man apart from animal, that he has to live by his intelligence and not by instinct. Because it shows that he's still been chosen to be close to the Creator, to absorb the wisdom of the Creator inside of him, and to live that way. And not to live by an animal that has the forces of nature and the wisdom of the Creator around him, and he just rolls with it. Right? Which, of course, they're much better at rolling with it than we are. We don't make good animals. Right? We survive by actually absorbing the wisdom of the Creator inside of us and harnessing. Right? And that's the glory of man. He says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave it, for the covet of the Adam. They should live by intellect. Shows that the wisdom of the Creator is not in the world around him. The wisdom of the Creator actually gets absorbed inside of him, and he will live that way. And shows that the chachma of the Beirei is not around him; it's in him. And now that mitzias is really meant for the higher goal of having God's ultimate wisdom inside of us, which is the Torah. Right? So now we can leave. It's a very simple idea. That which we call liberty, versus being enslaved. What's the difference between liberty and being enslaved? Right? When you're enslaved, you go to work, right? And if you work, you'll survive, right? So now when you're a free man, you also go to work, right? And if you go to work, you'll survive. What's the difference? Choice, right? But not just now choice. And a function of choice is appreciation of what you're doing, right? When you're enslaved, someone else is pushing you around, right? So whether it makes a difference whether you agree with it or not. Now, what does it mean to be agree with it? Whether you're not reconciled with it because someone else is making you do this, right? When you do it by choice, you're totally reconciled, with it, and your mind and heart is in it, and that's the difference between liberty, right, and enslavement. Really, it's all in the mind. Often, it could be sometimes slavery is terrible conditions, but it could be forms of of being enslaved, where the actual conditions are not too terrible at all, but it's still called enslavement because I'm being pushed. In liberty, I am self-propelled. I move myself. Even though I'm doing but it's a whole different experience because the difference of it doesn't come from my mind or it's being imposed upon me, right? And when it's imposed upon you, it feels like hell, right? And when it's by your own choice, it's heaven, right? Go squat and clean for Pesach. When your mother tells you, it's hell. All right, but then the same guy, that same high school jock, he goes to the gym and pumps iron, which is much heavier than Pesach cleaning, and he loves it. Right? All right? Why? Because this, it's not issued because it's hard. All right? He pumps a lot more, he works a lot harder pumping the iron. The difference is, this he wants to do, this he doesn't want to do. Right? And so therefore, this he does all sour-faced, and this he does besimcha. Right? So now you got to understand when God runs the world, of course he's running the world in a way that's merciful and optimal. Now if you understand what's going on, you're integrated with it, you could see Chasdei Hashem everywhere. But if your whole headspace is, into your own things and you don't care about what God cares about, but God's going to correct things and he's going to correct the world, to be in accordance with what he wants, that's what we call din. That's what we call dinim. Now dinim really are not any different than chasadim, the Ramchal points out. Because either way, God's doing the same thing. God is not changing his mind. The Ramchal writes in Derech Eitz Chaim, he's always doing the one same thing. Ani Hashem lo shanisi. HaKadosh says, I don't change. There's chesed and there's din. No. From God's perspective, it's all the same thing. He's always doing the one single agenda of making the world a better place. Right? Making the world a better place is the only thing he's ever doing. Now, of course, sometimes making the world a better place means, excising, things that are bad. And it also means reinforcing what's good. But it's all the same agenda, making the world a better place. So now listen to this chazal that talks about at the end of time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to pull the sun out of its sheath. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Motzi Chami Nartika, right? Unbelievable rays fill the earth. Tzadikim misrapim ba, v'rishoyim nidonim ba. The tzadikim, any tzadik who has any type of ailment, will be healed by those rays. The rishoyim are going to be consumed. Same rays at the same time, like tzaddik and the Russia, they're tanning on the same beach, right? Separate beaches, right? Now, right? Tanning on the same beach, right? Those rays come out, right? And the tzaddik feels great, right? And the Russia vaporized. Same rays, same time.
It's like laser.
Yeah, but it's affecting.
Laser to save your life, and then it's laser
Right.
in the weaponry kills you.
Right. Because the thing is like this: HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always making the world a better place. Question is, how did you position yourself? Did you position yourself that it's beneficial for the world to have you around, right? Or did you position yourself as a Russia, God forbid, that, the less of you, the better. Right? So it's the same divine energy, which is all about correcting and improving the world. But if you position yourself in a manner that, it's better for the world to not have you around, so the same energy that builds the tzaddik, right, is going to be that which, gets rid of you. Because God is only doing one thing, improving the world. Right? Now, sometimes, set out to make it to a less extreme case, right? When you know what's going on, right? This is the Hasidic form talk about all the time, right? Someone smacks you on the back, right? And so now, you don't know whether to run or to turn around and hit him back, right? Or what? But then, you turn or you have enough guts to turn around, it's your best friend. He gave you like a friendly, little chop on the back, right? So you laugh, you giggle, right? As opposed to if it was a stranger, you freak out. You don't know how to respond to this act of aggression. Right? So when it's something that you understand and you feel good about because it's coming from your good friend, right? Well, that same pat, slap on the back is friendly. Oh, he stroked me. Now, if it's someone that you don't know and you never saw before, it's an act of aggression, even though it's the same slap on the back. Really, the truth is, that's really the difference could be very much is the difference between chasodim and dinim, right? Always a slap on the back. But when you were expecting it and you understand why, like the bitter medicine you got to swallow, but you know you got to swallow, right? You take it, and life goes on. Or like the workout in the gym, as opposed to what you don't understand and what you're not reconciled with, right? So, that's what hurts. That's what it hurts, when you don't understand why, you don't see where it's coming from. And in truth, the real difference between chasodim and dinim is very much perspective, right? Aside from another thing, right? That, it's much easier when you take care of your own problems as opposed to someone else taking care of your problems. The gift of the dayanim, that the world really, the whole cosmic law runs ba'omek, in the depth of it, it all runs on din Torah. Din Torah is the cosmic rule. And what we call natural law is natural on the ultimate level. Where did these natural laws come from? They came from the Torah, and that's why they are natural law. Right? They can't repeal and replace the law of gravity. Right? No, Obamacare is not the natural law, but they're just having trouble with it. Right, but there's no havamina to repeal and replace the law of gravity or any of the laws of physics. It would make life a lot easier, and we can't. It's natural law, it just was is. Why are these natural laws so strong? Because the truth is, they're all legislated in the Torah. For instance, as my Rosh Yeshiva Zichron Livracha used to say, Rav Yaakov Weinberg, the Markosh said, "Yikavu mayim el makom echa v'teirar yabasha." That was those words of the Torah legislated the law of gravity. Beforehand, water didn't flow to the lowest point. To explore, so that was those different. As an example, those divrei Torah made the law of gravity, and it's chai v'kayam and lo netzach because the Torah is chai v'kayam lo netzach, and it's true. The truth is, it's the truth about all the natural laws. They come from and they are strong and unchanging because the Torah that they come from is true and alive and unchanging. The gift of the dayanim is that HaKadosh says these laws that I run the universe by, they're going to be in your head, right? And you're going to, fix reality yourself, right? And this is called that now how God runs the world is not going to be around us, it's going to be in us. And that's what it means. She asked, right? God's everywhere. So what do you mean? The Shekhinah is Shora and Yisrael.
Shekhinah, excuse me.
Yeah.
Shekhinah and God the same thing?
No. Shekhinah is how God reveals himself. Right? Revealed. Right? Right? That's Vishachanti dwells. That's the whole point. God himself is everywhere. But the Shekhinah is not everywhere, even though God is everywhere. Right, or I should say, make it more correct. Gilui Shekhinah is not everywhere. Even though God is everywhere, and even the midah called Shekhinah, that divine attribute is everywhere, but Gilui Shekhinah, what's called Shekhinah Shoreh B'Yisrael, that's only by Klal Yisrael, right? Because the revelation of the divine, right, is as that. But what does it mean? V'shachanti bitocham, in them, in their midst. That was the revelation of the Torah, that the cosmic rules shouldn't be what's around you, it should be what's in your midst. That's called V'shachanti bitocham. Shechina Shora B'Yisrael. And that was produced as a result of Matan Torah. That God's law that he runs the universe by is now the law itself is not just what's around us, it's now inside of us, in our minds and in our hearts. And when the Dayan now paskins al pi din Torah, so one Ma'amar Chazal says, he's Mashra Shechina B'Yisrael. Another Lashon of Chazal says that he's Nase Shutfo Shakosh Baruch Hu B'Maaseh Bereishis, because through meeting out Din Torah, which is the natural law, right? As it were, we are creating and fixing reality ourselves. So now God is now his power is inside of us. That's Shechina Shora B'Yisrael. But this law is what corrects the world. And that's what it means that, it's Nase Shutfo Shakosh B'Maaseh Bereishis. But now, there's another Chazal that says, Im yesh din lamata, ein din yored milamala. Ein din lamata, din yored milamala. If there's no judgment on earth, God forbid, the Dayanim, people don't go to din Torah. People don't go to Din Torah, God forbid, right? And which from God's perspective, it's called that the world is lawless, right? Because He only cares about His law, the Torah law. You don't go to Din Torah, so HaKadosh says, I got to correct the world myself, because you guys aren't doing it. I wasn't going to entrust my power to you, and you would do it. So if there would be Din Lamata, and then it would be because everyone understands, and the Dayanim explain, and people get it, right? And when you get it, it's you could appreciate, and it doesn't hurt when you get it, like we explained. But Ein Din Lamata, Din Yor, HaKadosh says, from the outside, I'm going to have to correct things. And when HaKadosh has to now correct things, because we're not correcting things ourselves, whenever someone else corrects you instead of you correcting yourself, it hurts. Right? So if there's Din Lamata that we do, Din Torah ourselves, right? So it's called we're fixing the world ourselves, we're fixing ourselves. And when you do it yourself, that's liberty, and that feels great. Right? When it has to be done for you, that hurts. It's always that way. So now with this, now we're going to get back to the luchos, what the luchos represented. An unbelievable thing. This idea of the reconciliation or the unity between mankind and divinity is what the luchos represented. Right? What are luchos? Right? Where do we find the term luchos elsewhere in Tanakh? I believe it's a pasuk in Koheles, I believe, is it? Right? Kosveim al luchos libecha. Inscribe the Torah on the tablets of your heart. Luchos, they're called luchos libecha, the heart. My Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro, Zichron Livracha, used to say, right, that, right, he used to say that that's the Minhag Yisrael, he used to claim, right, Minhag Yisrael, to draw the luchos like this, with a curved top. Right, okay. You don't have luchos here. Right, every show has luchos, curved tops. Yeah? Yeah? Even though there's no shita on the medrash that the luchos look like that. There's no shita on the medrash. The Chazal say the luchos were cubic, right? So, the theory is, the Hamon Am say because they took it from Michelangelo, who in his, paintings made the luchos look like that. That's what, so my Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro, Zecher Tzai Kosh, so was terribly against it. Asuli Tchakem Kacha, you can't say these sly svaras, it's Minhag Yisrael Kodesh, it's for many generations, it can be shown. Jews always drew the luchos with these curved tops. Zelev, you say, it's a heart, right? Because Am Yisrael understood that the luchos represent a heart. And that, draw with the curve, so to make it look like a heart. That's why. Kosveim al luchos libecha, right? The tablets represent the human heart, right? And va'michtav michtav elkim chorus ala luchos is that the words were mamish engraved. Engraved is when the word and the thing that's on are mamish one. It's not superimposed like regular writing. It's engraved, right? It's mamish one. So what a Chazal darshan from that va'michtav elkim chorus al tikrei charut ela cherus. Liberty. En lecha ben chorin el misha osik b'Torah. So no one's free. Because when you are osik in Torah, you are doing a mind meld with the cosmic law. And that means you're totally reconciled with everything that goes on. You don't feel enslaved at all. Enslavement is that there's a different das, there's a different daya, a different imposing its daya upon you. So that life is unfair. God's pushing me around. Right? That's if you don't understand where He's coming from. But if you have His mind in your mind, and you're totally in sync, and you think alike, right? It's cherus. It's not shibud. It's cherus. Because the difference between cherus and shibud is, do you understand and appreciate it, or not? So if you have the Torah in your mind, you're a ben chayrin, right? Because you're totally reconciled with the cosmic rule, right? It's not something pushing you around. It's something inside. You flow with it. You have it in your mind and in your heart. And that's the thing that the luchos represent. The luchos are a separate entity that represented the speciality of what Matan Torah was. That Matan Torah wasn't just to impart information. Matan Torah was a project to put the divine intelligence inside of our intellect. that the divine rule and the divine law shouldn't be what's around us. It should also be inside of us, and that's what the dayanim are, and that's what it means. Shechina shara. So that's what it means. That's what it means. Hashras hashchina. Hashras hashchina. Even though God's everywhere, but He revealed It's called that He is inside of us, right? With Matan Torah, because we have His intelligence inside of us. That's Hashras hashchina, which was created by Matan Torah, and that's what the dayanim are all about. The dayanim are all about that that God's light shines in them and through them, right? And that's what's called their Masha Shechina, and that's why it's called, we're going to be partners in creation. And partners in creation because we're Davek in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? To be God-like in order to be close to Him. And our closeness to Him makes us God-like, right? And that's therefore we're going to now fix the world ourselves. And if yesh din lamata ein din yor milamala, He doesn't have to correct us. He gave us the gift of correcting ourselves and correcting the world around us. And that's why Dayan Shadan did emes lamito nasa shutav lakadosh basa bracious. And in that world, it's a world of chesed. It's called din technically, but when you yourself understand the law and mete out the law, right? You know what's going on. When you know what's going on, it's all chesed. Right? It's din when you don't appreciate it and you're being pushed around. Okay, so now to understand, that this is shviras haluchos. Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, right? He didn't burn the Sefer Torah, right? He broke the luchos. Right? He broke the luchos in response to Chet HaEgel. You understand a little bit of what's going on. Because with the sin of the golden calf, we broke the connection. Right? So there's Torah and there's us, but it's not the Torah inside of us. That's what got ruined by Chet HaEgel. It's a very interesting medrash in Parshas Yisro. Right? Am Yisrael said, Naaseh v'nishma. Very interesting. We will do and then we will hear, which everyone asks, how do you do before you hear? Right? But we know that whatever it means, we'll explain in a second, it was, Am Yisrael is called Am Yisrael's greatness, that they said Naaseh before Nishma, like the Malachim, like Migil, Raza, Barnai, Shemachar, Mishtam, Shibo. We did not Naaseh before Nishma. Right? But there should be some recognition, right? Valuchos Maisa Elokim Hema, Vamichtav, Michtav Kim Charsel, Luchos were Maisa Elokim. Maisa Elokim, the first Luchos were divine. Right? And now the Luchos are Maisa. Maisa Elokim, the Michtav, what's written, those are words. Words are spoken. That's Nishma. Naaseh and Nishma. Maisa Elokim, Michtav Elokim, Naaseh and Nishma. Says the Medrash in Parshas Yisro. Right? It tells a story that a king sent his bartender to bring him 2 drinks. He wanted in the mood for 2 drinks. He poured him 2 drinks. He's on his way to deliver the drinks to the king, and an egel, a calf, broke loose, bumped into the bartender. He dropped 1 glass, shattered. Right? So he comes to the king, embarrassed. I only have 1. He says, "You better watch this one. Don't drop this one away." Right? So he also says the medrash, interesting medrash. Am Yisrael was moizek shtei kosses to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Sinai. Naaseh and Nishma. We poured 2 drinks for HaKadosh Baruch Hu at Har Sinai. Naaseh and Nishma. Right? With Chet HaEgel, we broke one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Shavartem Naaseh. Hizaru benishma. Right? That with Chet HaEgel, it's called we broke Naaseh. We still have Nishma left. Right, so what does that medrash mean? That Chet HaEgel calls that we lost the Naaseh of Naaseh v'nishma, Shavartem Naaseh, Hizaru benishma, and because of that, Mida K'neged Mida, there was Shviras Haluchas, the Luchas which were Maisa Elokim, which never was duplicated because the second Luchas are not Maisa Elokim, it's Psol Lecha. Right? The Pshat, what?
How do you know which one you broke?
I'm relying on the medrash. I don't know if they prove us that with Chet HaEgel we broke Naaseh of Naaseh v'nishma. We broke Naaseh. We only have Nishma left.
So only one was broken.
That's right. We broke the cup of Naaseh, and that's what Shviras Haluchos is connected.
2 tablets.
Both tablets are broken. It's like the first set represents Naaseh.
Right. Then we lost Naaseh. Shviras Haluchos is connected. Shavartem Naaseh.
Now,
right.
What does the medrash say about did Moshe Rabbeinu act properly in breaking the law?
Yes. He actually, even though God didn't tell him, but he was HaKadosh was maskim asher shibarta yachar shekocha shibarta. It's called that Moshe Rabbeinu instinctively figured out that God would want shviras haluchos. That's correct. Right, because the amazing thing, what gave him the right? HaKadosh was maskim al yodo that because of shavartem nasa, it has to be shviras haluchos. The first luchos being maise elokim. Haluchos maise elokim ema keneged shavartem nasa. Right. The word is like this. It's exactly what we're saying. When Am Yisrael said Naaseh v'nishma, that what they're saying is it's guaranteed we're going to do whatever Hashem wants, right? Generally, it's like it's a game of telephone, right? Chain of command, and and you have to see whether the message is properly received and appreciated, like the game of broken telephone, right? When they said Naaseh before Nishma, they're saying it, as in Sof Maisa, b'machshava tchila, right? We are pre-committed to doing exactly what you say, and now the hearing is just that we want to appreciate it. But there was like a pre-commitment that whatever you say will get done. Nothing will get lost along the way. In that framework, it's called that the body was holy, just like the luchas were Maisa Elokim. As even Maisa, what we do, with our bodies, right, was called Maisa Elokim. We were in perfect sync with the divine intelligence. Am Yisrael, when they said Naaseh v'nishma, we're in perfect sync with the divine intelligence. It flowed freely from the mouth of God straight to the Gemara Maisa. Nothing got lost. Like we followed, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's word just as easily as we follow our own whims and desires, right? Right. That was, and that's why the luchas, which represent the human heart, were Maisa Elokim. It's called that there was an unbroken flow from Dvar Hashem to the Gemar Maisa Ayidei the Adam, free flowing, nothing lost. Man followed the word of God like a shadow follows a person, right? And that was the madrega of luchas rishonos, right? But now the thing is that we started thinking, as we were thinking for ourselves. When we thought, where's Moshe Rabbeinu? He's expected back. He's not here yet. We started thinking for ourselves. And that was when we broke off from the divine intelligence, making our own cheshbonos. Right? And the Chazal Darshan, Asher Asal Kim Es Adam Yashar, Vehema Bikshu Cheshbonos Rabim. God made man straight. It's natural for man to, just be straight from whatever God wants to me doing the Gemara Maisa, straight line. But Hema Bikshu Cheshbonos Rabim, but we're looking for all different types of Cheshbonos, right? Thinking all types of thoughts that should never be thunk in the first place, right? We made things needlessly complicated for ourselves, right? And it caused distraction, right? So now because of those distractions that we generated, distractions and and delusions, whatever you want to call it, right? So that's what broke the connection. Now, so it had to be shviras haluchos. The first luchos aren't. We're not on that level anymore. That the body naturally follows whatever from God's word mouth to our Gemar Maisa with nothing lost in between. We lost that, and that's why it had to be shviras haluchos. That's called shavartem nasa, because things always get lost along the way. How many things do we actually lemaisa in the Gemar Maisa do lefi the halacha bedikduk, with no pnius, without any ulterior motives, any mitzvah b'shleimus? Very rare. The Rambam writes one mitzvah b'shleimus could get you olam haba. The Rambam says it's very hard, right? And that's why there's 613 different mitzvahs. Maybe you'll get one of them right one time in your life. Right? It's frightening to do a mitzvah b'shleimus, which includes not just doing it, bedikduk, right, but also without any ulterior motives. Am Yisrael, by the luchas rishonos, it was like as easy as coming from God's orders to final execution, faultless, the way a shadow would follow a person. Right, but we lost that level, and that's why there had to be a shviras haluchos, because man, the connection between man and the Torah has been severed, that the Torah now is external. It's not internalized. Right? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu Barov Chastov said, contingency plan, because we never got back to that level of Naaseh v'nishma. Right? It's still called Shavartem Naaseh. It's very rare that we, in the final execution of, even if we are halacha observant, it's very rare that we should do the mitzvah b'shleimus exactly as the way God intended it. Right? Things get lost. That's called Shavartem Naaseh. Right? we at least Hizaru Benishma, at least we could perhaps understand what we're meant to do, even though it's very rare, right, to come to the day Gemar Maisa, right, as you know, the Gemara says in Brachas, Ribar Shom Ritzonenu Lasa, so really you want to do what you want, although Mi Ma'akiv, who gets in the middle, Sor Shabi'isa, the Yetzorah, Veshiba Malchis, and the Golos, things are Ma'akiv, get in the middle, and the Gemar Maisa doesn't reflect, the Reishis HaMachshava that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, and maybe the Machshava we can understand, but it's very hard to follow through L'Maisa, right? And that's connected to the Maisa Okim of Luchas, that's what broke, Shavartem Nase. Right? Second Luchas. The Luchas are earthly. It's never going to be, it's not made out of divine stuff. The Luchas are stones from earth, right? But still, Psolacha, you know what? You could chisel away at that piece of stone and carve it into a tablet. So even though it's not going to be Maisel Okim, but fort, it could be something, something that could, carry it a little bit. So this is what it says in the Sefer Yetzirah. We're coming full circle now, right? What it says in the Sefer Yetzirah, right, in the mazel of the month of Elul, right? Elul. And that I saw in the Ishbitzer, he says, Elul Miloshin Aliyah, tail. Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah, head, right? But this is like the, furthest month away from Tishrei. Elul, it's the 12th month, right? Right? So it's the Aliyah, it's the tail, right? Tishrei is the Rosh. This is the Aliyah, right? This is the tail. Right? We're really, really holding at the lowest level, right? Furthest away, right? Reconcile yourself with our situation, but psolachat, carve at yourself. So it says the Sefer Yetzirah, Himlich os Yud b'masa. What reigns in this month is the letter Yud in Maisa, right? And then it's and it's the the left hand Yad Smol, right? And the mazel of Besula, the Virgo. Right? These are the kochos of the month of Elul. Explains the Beis Yaakov from Ishbitza like this: we really, really are at the bottom, which is the furthest away from the head, right? Tishrei is Rosh Hashanah. We're at Elul. We're at the Aliyah. We're at the tail. Right, Besula means like a virgin sealed, right? Like we're mamish sealed, we're unpenetrated, right? Right, mamish, dense, right? Right, Yad Smol, right? Most people are righties, right? Yad Smol represents, this is the hand that, most people are righties, so the left hand is what, lags behind. It's the less strong hand, and things like writing or things that require intelligence or intricate, you do with your right hand. So it's Yad Smol Banefesh, says the Sefer Yetzirah. We're mamish holding, mamish, bottom end, furthest away. But he says like this, just like where do you put your tefillin? Right? On your left arm, dafka, right? Because tefillin is, kabbalah so much time that we have to try to pull that lowliness in. And that's why the tefillin dafka goes on the left hand, right? And it's interestingly enough, the left hand is closer to the heart, right? That we have to find a connection to pull our loneliness in, turn that heart of stone into tablets. And that's Ois Yud. The letter Yud represents machshava, intellect. Where do we know that from? Rashi. On the words Oz Yashir Moshe, Rashi's Bible question say Oz Shar Moshe. We're talking about an event that happened 3,000 years ago. So it says Rashi, no, it means Ola Belibo Lashir. He first thought about it and then he sang Hayud Al Shema Machshava. The Yud, that makes Yud, means he thought about it. Yud is Al Shema Machshava. Os Himlich Os Yud B'Maisa. Our level of Maisa is so lowly. It's almost like a Maisa Behema, right? That what we do and what the animal does, as if our actions are animalistic, we have to find a way to put a little bit of chachma, a little bit of intellect, a little bit of machshava into it. Even though it's not going to be the same like luchos rishonos, but we could at least chip away at it to make that heart of stone into tablets. That we can engrave Dvar Hashem on, even though it's not going to be Maisel Okim, but to make a heart of stone into tablets. They're being so far away to try to draw it in a little bit. And that's what it means. Himlich os yud b'maisa. It's a little bit of a tikkun for shavar nase, the psol lecha, that Maisa of making luchos is like, okay, the madrega of Maisa Elokim you lost, now you do a Maisa to fix yourself a little bit, to elevate yourself a little bit. Now think about this. Originally it was top down. The words came from God in heaven, and it came down, it got internalized in us. Now we're going bottom up. You fix yourself up a little bit. Fix yourself up a little bit, and raise yourself up to me. I'll meet you halfway. So HaKadosh says, Psolacha, carve at the stones. Make the stone, which represents art, make a tablets out of it. Chip away at it a little bit. Fix yourselves a little bit. The first time around, the Torah came from heaven and just fixed us. Said this time around, we're going to go bottom up. Psolacha, the luchas come from earth, but chip away at it. Chip away, refine yourself a little bit, right? Put a little bit of machshava into your maisa, a little bit of refinement. And therefore, the first time around, it started from Matan Torah and it ended with with Mishpatim. Right? God revealed His word got absorbed, and the judges, emerged as an actor, as a result of the internalization of the light of Torah. Here it has to go the other way around. We have to now refine ourselves a little bit, and if to the extent that we try refining ourselves, God will reveal Himself to us, and that's why Shoftim v'Shotrim titein lecha b'chol sharecha. Says the Zohar that it's not just the setting up the system of government on earth, which is by the way, government on earth is Hashras HaShechina, and that's the inyan of Eretz Yisrael, where the Shechina is revealed, where the government of God is revealed and internalized. That's why we forgot to get back to the Chazal that B'schus the Dayanim, we're Yoresh the Oretz. It's all about bringing the Shechina out, internalizing the Shechina, which is the inyan of Eretz Yisrael. The Shechina is internalized in the land of Israel. It's not internalized in Chutz La'aretz, even though the Shechina is technically everywhere. So, b'schus Dayanim, you're Yoresh the Oretz. But over here, you're going to start with yourself. By the first time around, it was top down. God revealed the Torah, and the Dayanim emerged because the aura of Torah got internalized within the people. Now it's going to be psol lecha. Right, you're going to start with yourself. Shoftim titen lecha, says the Zohar and the Sifrei Chasidus in this week's parsha all say this, that there's also internal government. Internal government, right? You have to have your own shofet v'shoter titen lecha inside you, right? You have to have a conscience. A shofet is a conscience, and shoter is discipline. Just like in the city. Right, the Tanya, Sefer Tanya, is also built on this idea that a man is an ir ktana, a man is a city. A man has to view himself like a city and all his different talents, like the different forces, in the town. You have to have self-government, right? Shoftim v'Shotrim titen lecha, in you, and this is in the Zohar. In b'chol sharecha, b'chol shiurin deliba, and all the gateways of the heart, all the different talents that come at the heart. You should try to build yourself a conscience, a shofet, and a shoter, and some discipline. And that's all implicit in the psolacha. Right? Chipping away at the heart of stone, making the stone into tablets. A little bit of self-refination, a little bit of self-refinement. And in response to the extent that you try to refine yourself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will, now v'chasafti al luchas, He'll give you divrei Torah, but you have to refine. Psolacha, right? Refine yourself. Carve away at yourself first. Shoftim titen lecha. It's not going to be the shoftim are not going to be as a result of Matan Torah. They're going to be a prerequisite to get Torah. Discipline yourself. Develop a sense of conscience, right? Make for yourself a conscience and some discipline, and then v'chasafti ala luchas. And now we can understand why it took 40 days and 40 nights. Not for Moshe Rabbeinu to learn the Torah again. He learned it already the first time. The 40 days is for us. The 40 days is the process that we are called. Moshe Rabbeinu, he did it all in one day. But the Gaon says that Psolacha is the end of the whole month of Elul, chipping away at the heart of stone. And part of the chipping away is to build our sense of conscience and a sense of discipline. And in response to that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to v'chasafti ala luchas. And that's the difference. And that's the, on Yom Kippur, Moshe Rabbeinu comes down with the second luchas, tablets and the writing. Right? The shift of when we go from tablet building, constructed tablets, to having writing on the tablets, that shift happens on Tishrei. Right? What happens on Tishrei? It opens up with being mamlech, coronating HaKadosh Baruch Hu, re-accepting Him as our King. Right? That's already begins the writing on the tablets. But the 30 days of Elul is all about building the tablets. Building the tablets. tablets for God to write on. Right? During the 10 days of Tishrei is the v'chasafti al aluchas, because we accept Dvar Hashem, we accept His word as law. So that's already the process of v'chasafti al aluchas, and that ksiva is finalized on Yom Kippur. And with this you can understand the remez of the Balaturim. Uma Hashem Elokecha es levavcha ve'es levav. Es levavcha ve'es levav, Rashi Tevis Elul. Elul is about building the heart. Chipping away at the stone and making stone into tablets, making our heart of stone. It's going to stay stone because we still have a Yetzer Hara inside of us, but to turn the stone into tablets that could be makabel, Dvar Hashem, that's the Avar, build the heart. Turn the stone into tablets, and the transition that we have on Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, we're being Mamlech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we start the divine intelligences revealed, and those 10 days from Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is the V'chasafti al Aluchas. But during Elul, right, is the building of the Luchas. We should help. We should build our conscience, right? And that's why it opens up with the parsha of Shoftim and Shoftim. Titen Lecha, it's internal, not just addressing the nation on earth, but also the individual, earthly individual. Build for yourself in these 30 days a conscience and a sense of discipline. And since obviously it's all about being makabel, malchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the din of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, have to make everyone aware. We mechazik ourselves, not to go chas v'shalom terakos to secular court. Din Torah is that is the law of God, and that is the cosmic law. And if yesh din lamata ain't din yor milamala, and we want to make sure that this year coming about will be a year of chasar, but not a year of dinim. So you have to make sure there's din lamata. I want to remind everyone there is a beis din in town. Do not take your disputes to secular court. I have a beis din that operates free of charge, services the entirety of Long Island. So please, let's be mischazik in any of not chas v'shalom going to our coast, which is called Meir Miyam B'Torah Moshe, right? But do everything al pi din Torah. Okay, thank you very much. Farakoi. Oh, thank you very much.